So the other disappointment I want to talk about is Iowa State. The Cyclones were expected to contend for the Big 12 title last year, and they finished only 7-6 with a trip to the always thrilling Cheez-It Bowl. This year they were picked actually 6th in the preseason poll, so right in the middle, so to speak. Though they did have one first place vote, which I think kind of signals the confusion over who was going to win this league this year. But they are currently tied with OU with an 0-3 Big 12 record, so last place, and they have really labored to score some points. So Matt Campbell used to be the hot coach that everybody wanted. What happened? What happened in Ames? John, you were just there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think last year was supposed to be the year. You know, Brock Purdy, Brice Hall, a great defense. Somehow it just did not happen. And you're really not seeing Matt Campbell's names on the hot coaching board anymore. So I think, I don't know. I think this was kind of a rebuilding year anyway. And they have lost some close games in the Big 12. So, they may not be awful. I think they could still be a bowl team, but yeah, I think last year just kind of passed them by and now they're kind of in rebuilding mode.
Chris?
Yeah, Brice, I mean, you mentioned it with Baylor trying to replace some great leaders from last year's team and how that might mean more than talent in a lot of instances. And is there a bigger leader in the history of the Cyclones than Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
And then I think Brice Hall was, I mean, he's probably one of the best, if not the best running back to go through that program. And he did things the right way as well. So yeah, I'm not used to seeing Matt Campbell get that angry on the sideline. I haven't watched a ton of their games, but I feel like he's been a little not himself this year as well, some frustration. I also look at the rest of their schedule, and it's how I feel about a lot of the Big 12. They can lose the next 6, or they can win 4 or 5 of the next 6. Like, I feel like every single game is still a winnable game on their schedule from here the rest of the way out, even though they have number 13 TCU and, Texas, who all of a sudden people say should be a top 5 team after they beat the worst Oklahoma team I've ever seen. I think Iowa State could still salvage this season. I just think it's a tough conference to win in, and it's a tough conference to win in when you don't have the veteran leadership that some of these teams, Baylor, Iowa State, are used to having.
Yeah, and I think something that Iowa State may need to start really catching in on is the transfer portal. Because if you look at what Kansas has done this year and you look at what TCU has done this year, they have gotten some major contributions from transfer portal guys. And to me, even as Iowa State has elevated itself under Matt Campbell, Ames is still not the, be all end all place that recruits are just going to go, yeah, Iowa State, that's where I want to go. So I think they have to, cash in on some of those kind of guys, especially in this era of college football where it's such a big thing. I mean, there's so many guys entering the transfer portal that you can find some guys that you might be able to plug and play. And maybe they're not the next Brock Purdy or the next Brice Hall, but maybe they can, help you win games. And certainly, as Chris said, replacing those guys is a big deal. I mean, watching Brice Hall last year here play in Waco, and of course we had seen him for a few years. I just was going, man, that guy's ready to play on Sundays today. Right now he is a NFL running back, and I ended up drafting him in my fantasy football league, and he scored double-digit points for me this week, which all the TV guys, incidentally, John, they make fun of my fantasy football league because we're old school, and it's hard to score double-figure points in my league. So,
oh yeah,
points are at a premium in my fantasy football league. But anyway, it is hard to replace Brock Purdy and Brice Hall for sure.
It is. And Brice, I want to touch on that transfer portal thing you mentioned. I hadn't really thought about this, but you know, Matt Campbell built that program by kind of changing the way they recruit, focusing on recruiting kind of the upper Midwest and getting those kids. And he built it. But I think for you, I don't think he realized when it switched to, okay, now we do have enough of a reputation where we can land some of those transfers that, again, aren't going to be the top transfer, but these are quality guys who look here and say we can win. And I think that you need to be able to adjust. It's one thing to turn the program around. Now, how do you keep it going? Well, you got to look at these other resources that you've earned, and you've earned the opportunity for transfers to want to come to your school. You got to cash those in.
Yeah, absolutely.